You're listening to the New Heroes of Old NovelCast, written and read by author Greg Bulmash. Season 1, Hell on $5 a Day. Episode 9. Chapter 9. A Second Chance. Manhattan, modern day. Kurt rocked with the subway, lost in self-pity. Was he that much of a loser? Was he uglier than he thought? Or was it just that he wanted what he couldn't have? He wasn't anywhere near joining the incel movement. It's not like he never had girlfriends in his life. It's not like a couple of them hadn't been hot, or at least hot-ish. But they'd all been friends of friends or somehow from within his extended social circle. Probably the closest to unusual was when he dated Hadley in college. He met her while working on the literary magazine together. What had seemed to be an exciting artistic streak at first eventually turned out to be a combination of neuroses and pretentious bullshit. The sex was good, so he'd put up with it until she dumped him, because she said he was too passive and never going anywhere. Maybe he was. Instead of writing the great American novel, he'd graduated into a junior copywriter job, writing the great American reason why this shampoo was going to change your life. And perhaps that's why the last year or so had seemed so unsatisfying romantically. He was looking to his love life to make up for what was lacking in other areas. He had these romantic notions of a chance meeting. Not a meet cute, but something more intense and dramatic, turning into the kind of romance that would define a lifetime. His Annabelle Lee, his Beatrice. He'd seen the lust of his life, or at least his month, at a club this evening. The best way he could describe her was to combine the best features of Rosario Dawson and Dania Ramirez, a teenage crush from when she'd been on Heroes. Skin like coffee with cream. Full lips, glistening black hair, that jawline above a neck that begged for your lips. He could feel himself getting visibly excited and started thinking about baseball to prevent any unsightly bulges. He was 6'0", neither scrawny nor muscular, neither fit nor fat, neither rich nor poor, though closer to poor, neither strikingly handsome nor frighteningly ugly. His hair was so light brown it got sort of blonde in the summer. He wasn't even blonde or brunette. He wasn't really anything at all, other than extremely, achingly in the middle. The girl at the club hadn't even looked at him. She'd been dancing with 2 girlfriends, and when Kurt went up and introduced himself, her girlfriends talked to him, but she just danced in her own little world, looking everywhere in the club but at him. Her name was Jennifer, her friends Sophia and Tanya. He talked to them as a group, shouting over the music, not wanting to single her out, not be so goddamn obvious. Sophia and Tanya would answer his questions, even asked him some. They were plenty friendly, but he wanted her, and she wasn't biting. He couldn't tell if she was truly lost in the music or if she was truly, pointedly ignoring him. Either way, he eventually gave up. He'd been at the club with some people he knew from college, not really friends, but more than acquaintances, and he went back to their place to get his backpack before heading home. Tomorrow would be another day at the bottom of the food chain on the agency's creative team for a whitening toothpaste that gave half its profits to Amnesty International. His project in the morning would be figuring out how to tell the product's story in a 3-inch square rectangle on the product's environmentally conscious packaging. It was almost zen to contemplate a conscious toothpaste box, but that was the approved wording from on high. Now on the subway, he was pissed he hadn't been more bold with Jennifer. What did he have to lose by moving between her friends and being obviously focused on her, requiring her to reject him rather than give up when she didn't openly accept him? The problem was that it just wasn't who he was. He wasn't that guy. If he got what he even thought was an unspoken no, he gave up. But he suspected that by not being more shameless with his attentions and trying to get to a more overt no, he was letting the potential yes get away too often. Kurt felt a force pushing him to the side, jogging him out of his thoughts. The train was stopping. The doors opened, and he was sure he was hallucinating. Jennifer and her friends got on. Talking and laughing, they didn't notice him. They didn't seem to remember him from the club. They took a few seats against the wall, still engrossed in their private conversation. "What are you waiting for?" a voice shouted in his head. "This is too good to be coincidence. God's giving you a second chance. Go for it." Kurt walked down the wide aisle of the car until he was standing opposite the three. "Sophia, Tanya, Jennifer," he said casually. "Good to see you again." It was as if they hadn't even heard their names. They kept chattering on as if he'd never said anything. He wanted to slink away, let the night be over, let these girls disappear. But the more overpowering thought was that for once in his 23 years of life, he didn't want to get home and think, if only I'd tried harder. Better to curse himself for something he did wrong than something he didn't do at all. Louder now. "Jennifer, hey!" The three stopped and looked at him. In the glare of 6 headlights, he not only felt like a deer, but like a deer that had been shaved naked and doused with ice water. Yet somewhere within him, he found the will to continue. "You were at Static tonight, right?" Jennifer and her friends eyed him. "Yeah," she said. "And you were the geek who tried to join us." If Kurt had been armed, he probably would have pulled out a gun and shot himself in the head right there and then. "Gotta give you credit, though," she said. "You were the only one with the balls to try." It sounded like a compliment, but still Kurt wanted to kill or be killed. Just whatever would get him out of this amazingly uncomfortable situation. Jennifer stood up. With a step, she was pretty much in his face. "But in the light, you're actually sort of cute. Particularly with that much blood in your cheeks, turning them so cherry red." Kurt stood frozen as Jennifer kissed him on the cheek, then playfully grazed her teeth against it as if she were biting it. She moved around and planted her lips on his. It took a moment for the shock to disperse and the pleasure to register. When it did, he kissed back. She broke the kiss, pulled her head back, and peered into his eyes, cocking her head as if searching for something in them. It took a few moments for her to find whatever she was seeking in his eyes, but she did find it, and then her lips were on his again. Jennifer's hand came up behind his head, pulling him against her harder, and he felt a prick at the base of his skull, like he'd been stabbed with a thumbtack. He tried to pull back, but that only pressed the skin of his neck harder against the point. The area around where he'd been pricked was quickly growing cold and numb, and the numbness was spreading, especially up the back of his head. He was no longer kissing Jennifer. She was kissing him. Her arm moved down from behind his head and went under his arm, propping him up as his knees went weak. He registered a mild surprise at the fact she didn't struggle under his weight. The numbness that crept up the back of his skull was in his limbs. His body wasn't responding. Jennifer's other hand went down to his crotch and started caressing. He could barely feel it, but to the other passengers on the subway, it must have looked pretty passionate. The subway swayed to another halt. Kurt would have fallen down if Jennifer hadn't been holding him up. "Come on, lover," she said loudly. "Let's get you home." One of Jennifer's friends, Sophia, Kurt thought, but the fog was deep enough that he couldn't be sure, ducked a shoulder under his spare arm while Jennifer stayed under the one she was already supporting. The two led him out of the train while the third followed. "No, you know," Kurt mumbled, the best protest he could muster. As the girls pulled him across the platform and up the stairs, Jennifer or Sophia would go wide every few steps, swinging her leg out to kick his leg forward and make it look like he was making a feeble attempt to walk. Kurt tried as hard as he could to concentrate on making a protest, getting help. He was being drugged and kidnapped. This only happened in cheap spy movies. It didn't happen to normal people. Reaching the street, Kurt saw a police car cruising by slowly. "You want over here?" The police car stopped, and the driver shined a light on the four of them. "What did he say?" "Sorry, officer," Jennifer smiled sweetly. "Our friend has had a little too much to drink tonight. We're taking him home." "Just get him off the street, okay?" "'Kay." Kurt could almost swear he saw a flock of butterflies come out of her mouth. The syllable was so laced with cuteness and sugar. Kurt said, instead of his intended, "Arrest me, take me to jail." He tried for a shout, but he'd pretty much expended himself with the first one that got the cops' attention. This one was just a notch above conversational in volume. "And lay him on the side with a bucket next to the bed," the cop riding shotgun called out from behind his partner. "He's pretty far gone." "You got it," Sophia shouted. "Yup," Jennifer said to Kurt as the cops pulled away. "We definitely have to give you points for balls. But you're going to be a good boy now, aren't you? In fact, you're feeling very sleepy." Before Kurt could argue, he was out cold. Wait, don't go yet. Please hit like and subscribe to encourage my behavior. Knowing people are reading or listening is what keeps me going. If you can't wait for the other episodes, check out the audiobook at bounce.ws/books. That's bounce.ws/BOOKS. And please visit bulmash.com for the latest updates on the novels, podcasts, and the journey from here to Season 12. The New Heroes of Old NovelCast is read and produced by Greg Bulmash and distributed by Bulmash Media, LLC. Copyright 2026 by Greg Bulmash. Music is from the YouTube audio library. The opening music is Jungle by Akash Gandhi. The closing music is Better by Anno Domini Beats. Thanks for listening, and remember to come back soon.